Good afternoon. This afternoon I'm going to be reading from Matthew 8:23 to 27 in the ESV. And when he got into the boat, this is speaking of Jesus, when Jesus got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him? Okay. Do you ever go through storms? I do. I'm not talking about physical storms like rain and snow and things. Now we go through those too, but I'm talking about life storms, things that are thrown at us, things that are discombobulating, that just come out of here or there, some usually unexpected. We've been going through one of those here. We live in an apartment building, and our lease came up for renewal, and so we renewed it. But the office, they kept making errors on it, and we had to keep correcting the errors. And then somebody in their office deleted it after we'd filled it all out, So then we had to redo it. And when we went through, several processes of trying to get it right to where we could, all agree on it and sign it and everything like that. And this was several months ago. And then this month was when the new contract starts, and but it doesn't start till the 7th. So we have some prorated fees at the beginning, and then the rest of it is going to be the new charges. And the office messed that up terribly, and they did the same thing last year. Well, what they did is they decided we didn't have a contract, and the office manager told us we had no contract. She couldn't find a contract anywhere, even though it was right there in their records. We could see them. She says we didn't have one. It was a good thing that we had the pre-knowledge or whatever to have downloaded it and made ourselves a copy of it, and because they could just say it doesn't exist. Well, what happens if you don't have a contract is you not only get charged a higher fee, but then you get charged month by month fee also. So the amount came to about $300 more a month than what we had agreed to. Well, we don't have that extra amount of money. That's why we did a contract. So anyway, so we've been going back and forth with the office about this, and they're saying that they can't correct all the fees, and it's just been, one thing after another, so we're still in the middle of that storm right now, and so it's had its tender moments for sure, and I'm just sharing that with you as an example, because that's what we're going through right now. It's not major by any great means, but if we don't pay our whole rent amount by Friday, then we'll be considered delinquent, in our payment, and that will go against our credit and everything like that. So that means we may be forced into having to pay a higher amount than what we owe until this gets resolved. And so it's just, it's just been, but the thing is, they did exactly the same thing last year, so like, I don't understand that at all, but if you live in an apartment at all, you may have experienced some of those kinds of things. So anyway, this is our this is our present storm, that we are going through. So here we have a live in-person example of what this is talking about. Now, for them, it was an actual physical storm, but we can relate to it in our life situations and things that come into our lives. Oftentimes, bam, we didn't even see it coming. This one we kind of knew from experience that we might be facing some of the same stuff, and it's like an exact parallel of last year. That's just weird. But anyway, so this is the Lord reminding me this morning, that He's the God of the storms, and that the winds and the sea, they obey Him, and now that this is not saying that He's going to remove every storm. No, He doesn't. He allows us to go through tribulations and trials, some of them minor, some of them major. He doesn't always remove them. He doesn't always remove us from those storms physically. He allows us to go through them because He says that He disciplines us for our good, so that we will share in His holiness, and so we will be people who are righteous and godly and holy. So who if we've trained by them, and what did it say about Jesus? Even though He was perfect, He learned obedience through the things that He suffered. So we go through these things God allows in our lives to increase our faith, yes, but to help us mature, to teach us perseverance and patience and long suffering, and to keep putting our trust in the Lord and not in our circumstances, not in other people, because people are human. People are going to fail us. It's amazing that they could do the exact thing as they did last year, almost an exact parallel. But those things happen, and we have to weather those storms, and we have to trust the Lord, through those storms. So the disciples, when the storm hit, they were immediately afraid. Jesus was asleep. A lot of times, it's not that we think Jesus is asleep, but sometimes it might feel as though He's not paying attention. We might even say to Him, Lord, are you watching this? I don't remember the last time I said anything like that. I did at one point in my life, a long time ago. I said to God, He says, but God, you don't understand. I really thought He didn't. At that point in my life, I really thought that He had no control over my circumstances, that he was there just to comfort me and to help me and to instruct me, but I really believed, maybe not intellectually, but in my heart, I believed that He couldn't do anything, and because He hadn't rescued me, like I thought He should or whatever. So we might have those times when we think that God is just not paying any attention, or that He's looking in a different way, but He's not. He's completely sovereign over everything that He has made, over all of us, over all of our circumstances. There's nothing that can touch us but what God allows it, and He allows it for a purpose in our lives, to strengthen us in our walks of faith, to increase our faith, to teach us patience and endurance, and to help us to be godly and holy people, and to not do wrong things, because of our circumstances. And so when I go through these things, like today, I'm making this very practical. I'm giving it back over to the Lord, because it's still not over, and the communications back and forth, they're not great, and anyway, I don't need to go into more detail about that, but that when we go through these things, we need to take them to the Lord. We need to trust Him, and we need to pray for His counsel, and then follow His counsel, because sometimes He says just wait, you know. Sometimes he says, do this, you know, so sometimes the actions are required. Like we had to take certain actions to help correct, you know, the wrong that they were doing, in order to get it right. Um, and so sometimes actions are required, sometimes they're not. You know, sometimes he just says, wait, just trust me. I've got it handled. You know, well, he does have it handled. It just may not always go the way that we would hope that it would, you know. So we're not to fear. You know, he says, why are you afraid? Oh, you have little faith. So you can be a person of faith and still have those moments when your faith gets weakened a little bit, you know, by your circumstances, and then you have to renew that faith, and then put your trust back in the Lord, give it over to the Lord, you know, um, and trust Him that you know He's going to work it out, and that He'll give you the wisdom to make the right decisions, to say the right things, you know, uh, and and then it says here, he rose and rebuked the winds, and there was a great calm. And like I said, you know, he's not going to always stop the storms. You know, he's not always going to take them away, but he can calm us inside. He can rebuke that storm that's inside us when we're going through those things, and he can calm that, and he can give us peace, even in the midst of our storms. Okay, so that's the encouragement for today.